loss. The healing of the widow's son. I used to think when I read this story that it was just about the miraculous power of Jesus. A story to prove his divinity alongside his humanity. Proof of God's power over death. But then I noticed the phrase that wouldn't let go of me. It kept bugging me, and it was nagging me into looking a little deeper. And that was the phrase that I just read. Jesus' heart went out to her. Your version may say, Jesus had compassion for her. And I asked myself, why did Jesus' heart go out to the mother? At first blush, you would think, yeah, she suffered loss, but the most catastrophic loss was on the part of the dead guy. Seems like he's the one that had suffered catastrophic loss, right? But then I began to think and chew and dig a little deeper into the story. And I began to see that this story isn't just about life and death and grief and Jesus' ability to overcome all of them. It's about a whole lot more. It's about equally painful stuff. It's about loss and brokenness. It's not merely about overcoming death, not just about making dead organs and tissue function again. Jesus healed an even deeper sort of a loss. Perhaps the worst loss of all. One that's even beyond grief itself. Loss is never easy. But loss is a fact of life. We lose. We lose family. We lose jobs. We lose friends. We lose possessions. Sometimes we lose homes. We're always losing time. We lose status, and of course we lose competitions in our society. But our losing in life quite often involves a deeper loss, the loss of self. I told Carol right after we were married, I wish you'd been able to know my dad. I wish he had been able to know you. He would have really loved you. When my dad died, yes, I suffered loss, but it was more than just losing my dad. I lost a camping buddy. I lost pepper games in the backyard where Dad would stand his 3 sons up and maybe 1 or 2 more grandkids. We'd all have baseball gloves. We'd pitch up to Dad, and he would hit hot grounders back at us. We would laugh and have a good time. I lost a fishing buddy. I never could catch fish on my own. Every time I went with Dad, I caught fish. Dad knew just how deep to set the lure. He knew what kind of bait. I lost somebody who could look at my golf swing just one time and tell me exactly what it was that I needed to correct. Get over my slice or my hook. I had, in fact, lost myself in the process. I've told you the story about my dad's deep desire for me to be this really good golfer. And now in high school, during a really good round, one of the best I ever had, Dad came out and said, "That's great, son, way to go." His one observation was that my left wrist was collapsing at the top of my backswing. And I told you how angry that made me. And I turned into an angry, frustrated golfer from that day on because I was trying to please the father that I thought would not be pleased. The good news is I came to eventually experience firsthand the meaning of the word salvation. Because you see, the Greek word in the New Testament, and even the word that's used in the Old Testament, words that came in the Greek, in English, to be translated as salvation. The infinitive is soter, S-O-T-E-R. If you want to say a fancy theological word about the study of salvation, it's soteriology. But soter, S-O-T-E-R, and sozo, S-O-Z-O. actually mean, in addition to just plain salvation, soter and sozo mean to be restored, to be made whole, to have wholeness in life and relationships. And that's why I realized Jesus' heart went out to the mom, the widow, not just her dead son. Not only had this woman lost a son, she had lost herself. You see, a woman in those days and times was totally dependent upon a male. And that was usually a husband. If not, then it was a son. If it wasn't a son, then it would be a brother-in-law or some other male figure. Women were dependent upon that male for life itself. So this woman was not just without a husband, because it tells us she was a widow. She was without her only son. But she was also now without herself, without her entire being. All her possessions would then revert to her husband's family. She would be left without anything, any place, any means of support. Without a husband or a son, she had lost her very self. And along comes Jesus with a word and a touch. He restores not just the son's life, but the mother's life, the mother's purpose, the mother's very being, herself. Restores her relationship with her son, thereby restores her relationship with the community, and her own security was restored, made whole again. Jesus' own heart goes out to all kinds of people, including me. My broken relationship with my dad because of his unwitting comment all those years ago. I resented his perfectionism, and I saw it as a lack of support and uncaring criticism when I really was due praise. So our relationship wasn't all that it could have been until the day that I stood on my dad's grave and I prayed that Christ would allow me to forgive my own resentment and forgive my dad's well-intentioned attempts to try to make me the perfect golfer. And you know what? That day, standing on my dad's grave, Jesus' heart went out to me. Oh, I still miss the pepper games. I miss the camping and the fishing and the golf lessons. I haven't been back to Caballo Lake or Bonito or the Gila, Lake Roberts, in a long, long time. But Jesus healed my loss and my brokenness. And like the widow in this story at Nain, Jesus performed more than a bombastic healing. He gave me back myself like he did that woman. Salvation then is about so much more than getting a ticket to heaven. It's about restoration. It's about wholeness. It's about right relationship. And so in the end, when we read this story, sure, it's about the miraculous and the power of God through his son Jesus. But this story asks everyone who reads it, what have you lost that may have left you broken, separated from something, from someone, or maybe even from your own self? Because there's good news. This story tells us we can have wholeness. You can have right relationship. You can have yourself back again. Because the good news is God has come to help his people. Jesus said that those who have ears to hear, hear.